Communication is key in professional and personal relationships. Communication is transferring your thoughts and ideas into a way that others can understand. The book's 5 units, in my opinion, are 5 important concepts that can help you in the professional workplace. Those 5 concepts are, first, the foundations of business communication; second, the 3-step writing process; third, crafting brief messages; fourth, preparing reports and oral presentations; and fifth, writing employment messages and interviewing for jobs. I have had 2 jobs so far. My first one was working at Chuck E. Cheese as a teenager to pay for cheerleading and just to have extra money. And then my second job, which is my current job, is working in a corporate office for a Fortune 500 third-party logistics company. And I set up accounts and I do a lot of data entry. And a lot of my communication is via email. And I definitely had to teach myself the do's and don'ts, so I have a lot of stories of better ways to communicate, and this book definitely would have helped me if I would have taken this class before I started my job. In the first concept, with Foundations of Business Communication, it shows that without communication you have nothing. You can have great thoughts and ideas, but if you can't get your point across and you have nothing, and you won't get far in the professional workplace. And there are 5 things to remember when attempting to communicate effectively. You want to be practical, factual, concise, clear, and persuasive. It is also important to come across as professional in the workplace. And a few important traits to have are to be dependable. So you want to be on time. You don't want to take a lot of sick days. And it's good to show up early before your scheduled start time and to stay late. One thing is that they ask me to stay from 10:30 to 7 because I'm very reliable. And I've been there long enough to know how things work, and I have access to things that leads have access to, and some of those things not every employee has access to. And I currently work 8 to 4:30, and I go to school, and I have other responsibilities outside of work. So sometimes working 8 to 4:30, they'll ask me to stay until 7. So it's a longer shift for me, and it's not very ideal, but sometimes you have to be a team player and you have to show them that you're here for the long haul, and you have to do things like that. Another thing is, being a team player, it's important to be able to work well with others and to communicate with them, and it's important to be able to have a good way to communicate with the people that you work with, because you'll be communicating with different coworkers and employees and also customers, so you want to make sure that you can communicate in a way that they can understand. And then also you want to be respectful. I always say to treat others the way you would like to be treated, and you want to make sure you speak with proper grammar, and you don't want to use slang, and you don't want to use too much abbreviation. And when I first started my job, I would abbreviate a lot of my notes, and the notes is something that other people can see and read to try to see what we need just in case someone calls or sends an email questioning their account. And I used to abbreviate a lot, and I guess it was an issue because some people didn't always know what I was trying to say or what my abbreviation stood for. And so my supervisor said something to me, and at first I was a little bit offended because I just assumed that it was something that everyone would know, and I thought it was an easy abbreviation, but in reality not everyone knows the different abbreviations, and I guess not everyone can keep up with the slang and the terminology that people use nowadays. And then also a lot of my communicating is through email and sometimes phone calls. So I like to be proper in my emails, and I'll say good morning and good afternoon or thank you, best regards, instead of saying hi or hey or thanks, or just not ending the email with anything besides your name. And sometimes it can definitely be hard adapting to different workplaces and speaking with different people and speaking with the opposite sex or people of different backgrounds and religions. And being a female can definitely be hard because I speak with different types of people, different races, ethnic backgrounds, and in some of the religions, women don't work or women don't have authority. So when I'm trying to tell someone what they need, because I'm a female, sometimes they want to speak with a lead or a manager, and they don't realize that my leads, my managers, my supervisors are all females. So that sometimes can be hard to communicate with them, but you still always have to stay proper, and as long as they're not being too disrespectful for you, you just kind of have to take it and just be the bigger person sometimes. And the second concept is the 3-step writing process. And the 3-step writing process you can use in writing a lot of different things: negative messages, positive messages, persuasive messages. And I definitely use this probably the most. And with the 3-step writing process, you plan, you write, and complete. So while you plan, you analyze the situation, so you define the purpose and figure out who this message is for. And then you gather information, so you get together the necessary things that the people need to know. And then you choose how you're going to display this message. So are you going to send an email? Are you going to have a meeting? Are you going to post it on social media? Something like that. And then you want to organize the information. And then you want to make the information understandable for others. So you want to be sensitive. You don't want to overstep your boundaries. And then you compose the message. You want to look over the message, so you want to proofread it and make sure that you didn't make any grammar or spelling mistakes. And then you send the message, and then people analyze it from there. And this one I use a lot. Like I said, I do communicate a lot through email with my coworkers, so if there's a reminder or an update you need to send, a lot of the times that goes through email. And I like to keep my emails short and sweet. You don't want to make them too long because people have so much other things to be doing that they don't always have time to read a long email. So if you have to say a lot of things or express something long, it's better to host a meeting or one-on-one or a phone call. And sometimes I do get where I send out an email and maybe I have too much information that I'm trying to explain. They'll ask me to call them just so they can make sure that we're on the same page and they're understanding correctly what I'm saying. Because when you're not speaking face-to-face, you don't really know the tone that someone's using, and you don't always know what exactly that they're getting at. So it's best to not jump to conclusions and to try to figure that out in the best way possible. And the third concept is crafting a brief message. And I always like to be short and sweet anyways, because people have distractions and a lot of people are multitasking, so they don't have time to read long messages anyways. But there's a lot of different ways that people send messages through social media, email, text message. But in the workplace, you really don't use text messages, so a lot is by email or maybe social media, like a tweet or a Facebook status for your customers and business partners to know of different things going on. And a lot of times you don't want to talk to your coworkers or employees, business people, customers like that. You don't want to talk to them how you talk with your friends. And you want to be professional because obviously you're in a workplace, you're in a business. You want to speak professionally to your audience. And sometimes you have to have negative messages, and I like to take the direct approach. I don't like to take the indirect approach. There's no point of sugarcoating it. It's best to be truthful. And, sometimes it's nice to not only say what needs to be fixed, but it's nice to tell them what they're doing well, not just always saying what's wrong in the situation. But you don't want to be too indirect where they think everything is okay when in reality there is an issue that needs to be addressed and that they need to fix. And one time when I was working at Chuck E. Cheese, I started as a cashier and I worked my way up to a team lead. And a lot of the people that I worked with, I went to school with. And there was this one boy that was constantly late. And he started at noon, and that's when it starts to get busy. And every day he would be 10, 15, 20 minutes late. And so finally my supervisor asked me to write him up. And I never wrote anyone up before. I never got a write-up, so I didn't really know how to address the situation. And so I just took him into the office and I just told him, hey, you're late all the time, and you're supposed to be here on time. Our general manager really likes it if we're 10 to 15 minutes early. And really, he was just said that he doesn't really take the job seriously. I just kind of left it at that. I wrote the write-up, I signed it, he signed it, and I just let him go. But that was a poor way of communicating, because the fact that he said he doesn't take his job seriously, he probably shouldn't have been working there in the first place, and that's probably something that needed to be addressed on a deeper level, or maybe I should have talked to my coworker, my supervisor about it, but I just kind of left it. I just did the minimal of what they asked me for, so I didn't communicate thoroughly in that way. And then the fourth concept is preparing reports and oral presentations. And with planning reports, you kind of still use that three-step process. The three-step writing process is kind of the same with reports. You want to plan, write, and complete. And it's nice to use visuals. Excuse me. It's nice to use visuals because sometimes just seeing a bunch of words, it can get boring and you might get distracted easily, where if you use charts or graphs or have pictures, it gives someone something different to look at, which is sometimes nice. And the design is definitely key to get your point across. And it's good to practice, and you just want to be relatable and make them understand what you're trying to get through to them as well. And then with oral presentations, you just want to practice, maybe talk to yourself in the mirror, just make sure you don't maybe move your hands too much or you don't look around. It's good to make eye contact or even practice in front of your friends and family and get what they think about it as well, get their opinion. And then the fifth concept is writing employment messages and interviewing for jobs. And at first, I didn't know exactly how to create a resume. I just thought that you could just fill out an application, but when you interview for important jobs or higher paying jobs, they do ask for a resume, so that is something good to have. And in my resume, I give a small summary of my work experience, so I say my first job and why I left that job where I work now and how I advanced in that position and with the company. And then it's good to list the jobs, to give a brief description of what you did day to day and what your tasks were, to list your start date, your end date, your start pay, your end pay, and then to also list your schooling, so when you graduated from high school, if you have any college degrees, to list awards. If you have any certificates or licensing, it's good to list that information, and then have 3 references. And on mine, I have 2 professional references, so I have a coworker, and then I have a manager, and then I have a family member or friend, someone that's known you for a long time and that can talk about your character. And then also with interviewing, it's good to dress for the job you want, not the job you're applying for. And you don't want to rush. If they ask you a question, they don't expect an answer right away. It's good to think about it. If you answer right away just like that every single time, then they're going to think that maybe you're lying or maybe you have an answer, like kind of like a default answer for everything and you just want to be honest. They're people too. And it's nice to just try to have a normal conversation with them, but still be proper, and you don't want to wear excessive makeup or have like a crazy hairstyle or wear too much perfume or anything like that. You want to be neat and simple. And communication, again, is just important for day-to-day activities in the workplace with family members. And it's good to have good communication skills. And with these 5 concepts, with knowing the foundations of business communication, so you're able to communicate with others in a proper manner and being clear and precise. And the 3-step writing process will help you in writing messages and being clear and making it easy for people to comprehend. And then crafting brief messages, just kind of like a little note or, hey, don't forget, reminder, something small. Preparing reports and oral presentations, and writing employment and interviewing for jobs. Everything that we learned in the book is definitely helpful in learning how to communicate.